The Bookshelf with me, Ryan Tubridy, is brought to you by Ballymore. Founded by Sean Mulryan in 1982, Ballymore has long put arts and culture at the heart of what it does, from supporting artists and performers to weaving creativity into the neighbourhoods it builds. Alongside this cultural commitment, Ballymore creates places with soul. Its international portfolio is filled with award-winning workspaces, homes, shopping centres and entire neighbourhoods across Dublin, London, Bratislava, Prague and Berlin. Places where design, innovation and creativity come together and where people can live, work and play. Welcome to The Bookshelf, and today we're joined by someone who's been at the very heart of Irish political life for a long time now. He is, of course, Leo Varadkar, former Taoiseach, party leader, minister. He has made history, he's made headlines in equal measure, and we'll talk about his new memoir. It's called Speaking My Mind. It's excellent, I have to tell you, and we're also going to open the pages of the books that have shaped his life, as we do on every episode of The Bookshelf. Welcome, Leo Varadkar. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too, and thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. You're on the move with this book at the moment, and I'm wondering, how are you enjoying the experience? You're talking about, probably, I would argue, suggest one of your least favourite things to talk about, which is yourself.
Yeah, when you produce a memoir, though, you've no choice really for a while. But I have enjoyed the experience. Because was over 20 years an elected politician.
Yeah.
13 at the cabinet table. It's nice to do new things.
Yes.
Whether it's teaching, whether it's studying and learning again. Yeah. And I'd never written a book. And what I was used to writing was speeches, memos. I'd never written dialogue.
Yeah.
I'd never described the room, what I saw, what I smelled, what I heard. I had to learn all that, and had the help of a book doctor, an editor, to help me with all those things.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like I learned a new skill, and then I'm also at the same time learning about a new industry.
You get the sense that after you resigned from office as Taoiseach, that I kind of sense that you were bursting at the seams with a need to run through the gates saying, not get me out of here, I didn't like it, but get me into something different.
Yeah, I think so. I was probably ready to go before I realised I was.
Yeah. Because
when I decided to resign, I was psychologically prepared for regrets, and hasn't really happened yet. So look, it could be the honeymoon I'm in now. That might change in a year or two, but so far it's been really good. And a friend of mine actually said to me that it's a bit like a gilded cage. And it is. You get taken around in your cage, and you get to see great places and meet great people, and beautiful food is handed into your cage. But you have very little control over your own life, your own schedule, anything really. And it's nice to have that freedom again, both straightforward personal freedom. Yeah. Decide what I do, decide what I eat, cook my own food, that type of thing. And then also the kind of intellectual freedom that you don't always have in politics, because you have to be so careful about what you say. Yeah. Because you have to think about what the party might think, how the media might represent it, who might twist it. Then what your coalition partners think, and you're so constrained in so many ways. Not that I allowed that to stop me sometimes. Yeah. But it's nice in a way that I can sort of do and say what I think now, and even if it is much less consequential, of course. But
no, of course, and that's something that other people would say that I regret would be that, I used to say things and everything mattered. And now I say things and people say
nobody cares.
He used to be someone.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
But do you find, like, when you retired from the Taoiseach's office, I retired from the Late Late Show pretty much around the same time. And I remember thinking, I know exactly why you did that, because I looked in the mirror in the dressing room one day and said, I'm out.
Well, I remember you saying you'd done it for 14 years and I'd cabinet for 13. So we were kind of around the same.
Isn't it funny? There was a chiming to, and we were both doing very different jobs, but very much in the public eye and very much subject to comment. And that's the nature of the business. But like that, you just think, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for something different. And you just say, I get out of here. And one of the things now since after that decision, things changed for me in a pretty radical way, but we don't have to get into that unless you choose to. But it's about you today. And I just wanted to ask you about one of the things is that I loved was I came to London. I was in the tube. I was on bikes. I was running, and I'm a ghost. Have you become a ghost? I mean, not in Ireland necessarily, but when you travel to the UK or to Harvard or whatever, how do you enjoy the lack of instant recognition all the time?
I doubt you're a ghost because I get recognised a lot in London.
Yeah,
because there are so many Irish people in London,
right, yeah.
and then because of Brexit, I was on British TV a lot.
Yeah.
So
when I say ghostly,
yeah, but it's obviously very different to being back in Ireland. But certainly outside of Ireland and UK, I really don't get recognised at all. So New York subway, even going around Harvard, where there are a lot of people who are very well informed about politics, I still don't particularly get recognised. And one thing I really notice when I'm in Ireland, you can see from people's faces immediately their reaction to you. So
That's really interesting.
It's joy, it's shock, it's horror, it's disgust, it's disdain. You can tell from their face.
Yes.
But if you walk past somebody, let's say you're walking along the promenade in Nice, and it's just blankness, and that's really nice.
You seem so happy talking about blankness. It's a strange thing, but do you do get that friend or foe thing in Ireland then, when you go, okay, someone's going to go, you're responsible for my sadness, or I blame your government for that. Or equally, you get somebody going, oh, there you are, how are you doing? Yeah. Does that put you on edge a little bit walking down the street? Not on edge, but certainly aware of who and where you are.
Yeah, like it's one of the things I talk about in the book, is that when you're involved in politics, or I think even if you're any sort of public figure, because you're being recognised, there's this sort of low-level anxiety that's always there. So, you can see people, you can hear people talking about you, and you can see them trying to take sneaky photos of you in the restaurant or in the pub. So there's that kind of low-level anxiety, or just kind of awareness where you're always just a little bit on edge.
Yeah.
You jump in the taxi driver knows exactly who you are, wants to talk to you about something or other. But that is fading already. It's already quite diminished. And one thing I have found, it was always the case that most people most of the time are very nice. The number of times you'd get a hard time was relatively small.
Yes.
But the people who liked me, I think, still do. And the ones who hated me, I've kind of moved on to hating someone else. Yeah. Which is like sad in a way, but that's good for me.
Yeah, it's good for you, but that's the mob working its way.
Yeah, they hate Simon Harris now, or Mary Lou, or somebody else.
Whoever's up for discussion. Let's talk a bit about your early book reading days as a kid. In your own book, you describe a very deeply political interest from the early age, and you talk about you're going to the polling station with your mother and kind of going, God, that looks really interesting. The posters on the polls going, what did they do? Another kid would have gone to the circus and saying, that looks interesting. You chose a different kind of circus, but was it a very bookish house, or was it a newspaper house? What was everyone reading or doing, and who was in the house?
Mum and Dad, my two big sisters were in the house. And it was originally, my dad was a GP, so it was the old-fashioned house, the old-fashioned GP service, where it was in the extension to the house. So the business and the house were all mixed together. And always had the newspapers, because they'd be in the waiting room for the patients to read while they were waiting. So, the Irish Times and usually the Independent were there. So I would have read them, but I'd have to hand them back once the patients were about to arrive. Would have been kind of a swatty kind of kid, would have been more interested in school and books than I would have been in sport and other things. I wouldn't say I was I wouldn't have been a reader of political books as a kid. I was probably just too young, but loved things like the Chronicles of Narnia, the Roald Dahl books.
Yeah.
To that extent, Enid Blyton. I would have inherited my sister's books as well, because they were 4 and 8 years older than me. So all those books were hanging around the house.
Yes.
It's always an interesting thing, I think, when you go into a house to see whether there are books or not.
And what's your take on a bookless house?
Well, look, very often from like my experience as a politician and also as a doctor before, going in doing house calls, it's often a sign of disadvantage, unfortunately. And you'll go into a disadvantaged area. I remember visiting some people in the flats around Pearse Street in Dublin, which would be quite a disadvantaged part of town, and there were loads of screens and quite expensive
big TV
kit, and DVDs and things, but almost no books and written material. And I think that's sad, because part of growing up for me was reading and thinking and using your imagination to form pictures in your head rather than it all being given to you in audiovisual form.
And yet the most democratic thing in the world in some ways is the library, the public library, which I love the fact that books are free. So a lot of people might have gone to the library, mightn't have had the opportunity to own the books. So that was also an option for people.
Yeah, and we had a library as well. So I grew up in part of Dublin called Roselawn, and the library was actually on our street in the Roselawn shopping centre. So
very nice.
I remember having these tiny little green library tickets.
Yes.
That has since closed down and has a much bigger library in Blanchardstown. But yeah, so I remember going there as a kid as well.
And are you going to pick the book from your childhood? Do you want to light on one for us, Leo? As to
yeah, so it's a trilogy. It's the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, great.
By Tolkien, and I kind of would have moved up to it from The Hobbit. So I read The Hobbit. I'm pretty sure my sister Sophie gave me The Hobbit to read, and these were the books that I was reading under the covers.
Yes,
because my parents would want me to have turned off my lamp and have gone to bed, and I was under the covers.
So tell me about
with a torch.
Like a proper
reading Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings in part is quite scary. So that's kind of a scary environment in some ways to be reading it.
Tell me about Lord of the Rings. I've never read Lord of the Rings, and
really,
yeah.
I know.
What did you have me cut out as?
I don't know. I just thought everyone.
Thought I were in the No, but I just found Lord of the Rings. I suppose it was a bit prohibitive, the size of it, for starters. Yeah. And also, I think fantasy wasn't something that I was mad about necessarily. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't. I was going into Roald Dahl's Tales of the Unexpected and kind of creepy weirdness, as opposed to the joyful. What is it? The Search for a Ring, obviously.
It's a number of things. Like, it is fantasy, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of things like James Bond, because it's just, our Mission Impossible, for example, is just too unrealistic to me. It sort of pretends that this could be a real thing, and there's no way those people survive those injuries.
But you're saying this in the same line as
real
Lord
fantasy. Yeah,
I
real
see
fantasy.
what you mean. Okay.
It doesn't pretend to be possible. So this is authentic fantasy in my view. But it's about a number of things. It's about friendship. The first book is The Fellowship of the Ring. It's about people from totally different backgrounds, hobbits, elves, dwarfs coming together to form a coalition, to fight evil, essentially.
The League of Nations,
to fight an evil force, which is Lord Sauron, and then the Rings of Power are something very particular. So, what you see an exploration of in that is the way that power exists and power can be used for good, but also how absolute power can be a huge burden and actually can be very dangerous. So it's actually about destroying the ring, and destroying this ultimate power, the one ring to rule them all.
Crikey!
So it's interesting.
It sure is. I didn't know there was such a political metaphor in there.
And all of the ring bearers are changed by the ring and quite damaged by it, actually.
Yeah. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the expression goes. So that's probably...
And so many of them were unable to give it up. So the ring disappeared because Isildur wouldn't destroy it, and the ring had a mind of its own, to put it that way.
So some people want to run for a third term of holding the ring, even though they're not really meant to.
I think term limits are a good idea for the highest positions, anyway.
The last person who said that to me was Bill Clinton in an interview recently, and because there's only someone, I'm having a bit of a laugh, but the point is, the analogy is pretty strong, and you it sounds to me like you took quite a lot from that.
And there's also lots of other stuff in it as well. There's wizardry and
that's fun and games.
All the kind of fun and games, but there are very strong themes that run throughout it as well.
Let's talk a bit about, so school was okay. You seem to get on, obviously you got on great in school. You were a nerd. You were a nerd.
Liked school, yeah.
I mean, were you a nerd?
A bit, I suppose, yeah.
Your chess? Did you play chess?
I was in the chess club, yeah.
Yeah.
Afraid so.
It doesn't surprise me, but I don't see that in my world. That's a compliment. And Lord of the Rings, like, you're ticking all the right boxes for that. And you then find yourself going to the ballot box with your mother, and you're looking at the polls, you're seeing, what you talk about is you see what looked like ordinary people being able to achieve something else, that is to say office and then public service. And I think the light went off in your head to say, I could do something like that. You followed your dad's road, obviously, as a GP, but the politics was obviously always floating around. And was it college ultimately that you said, right, let's get stuck in here now? And
I joined my local party branch when I was 16 or 17, but that was just a paper member. I didn't really go to meetings. It was only when I went to college, went to Trinity College in Dublin, that I got involved in debating and also student politics and societies. So I'm sure I spent more time on that than I did studying medicine. But I think that's the idea of a university in many ways. You learn as much from the wider experience than
did you
from
enjoy
the course
university life? And
I loved it. Yeah, I really loved it. It was I'm still very fond of Trinity as an institution, and it was the first time I went to a place that was full of people who were like me, if that made any sense.
I do understand that. Like-minded souls.
Yeah. And it was also in the middle of the city centre, and there's no better place to be when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and in the middle of a busy city with, nightlife, restaurants, bars, stuff to do.
And did you have girlfriends in college?
I didn't. No, I dated one or two girls. Yeah. But no girlfriends in any meaningful sense.
And we can get to that in a minute. But I just I suspected you might have. Yeah. Because of the nature of the fact that you didn't come out as a gay man until later on. Come back to that. Let's talk about the book that brought you joy. Let's get some fun into the room here.
As I say in the book, Trinity College was probably a 15-minute walk from all the major, or the 2 or 3 gay bars. And
okay, you want to go to the gay story?
I never went. No, I don't know. Move on.
No, it's okay. Sorry, but you never went there.
No.
Were you tempted?
No,
because you didn't see yourself as a gay man.
Yeah.
Was it that ingrained in you, the denial of it?
Probably,
yeah. I just wonder, would you ever have passed the George, the most famous gay bar in Ireland, and you probably passed it many, many times as a student, thinking, I'd love to just to go in and have a look. Or
no, I didn't, and then the other one would have been the front lounge, as was at the time, which would have been a bit more of kind of a normal bar. Wouldn't be kind of a disco bar or whatever. Yeah, and
you never
don't think I was ever there.
Curious though. You were curious about it.
No, not hugely.
Not even.
No.
So what?
I do kind of wonder what would have happened if I'd
gone in.
Who knows? Yeah.
So what stopped you from coming out at the risk of being stupid?
I don't know. Sure. I probably just thought it was something I didn't want to deal with, or something that I thought would go away. And then like a lot of closeted gay men, I kind of threw myself into other things.
Yeah. And you talking about that?
One of them being politics, and you'll often see that with kind of high achieving closeted gay men, that they will throw themselves into their art or their music or their work or
anything
whatever.
But reality.
In
some ways. Yeah. So there you were in university, and you're having the time of your life. And even you talk about in your book about how you were half a doctor and half a politician, and that they were both suffering as a result, and something had to give, because you were describing yourself. You were also, the third plate was probably, without even realizing, you were trying to deny who you really were. So that's a job in itself. So now you have 3 jobs in some ways going. That sounds messy.
It was very difficult because being a junior doctor, a doctor in training, is really full on. There's not just the very long hours, you're also doing exams. And at the same time, I was running for the council, and then became a county councillor. Yeah. And I did feel for a period I was kind of doing a half-hour's job of both. Yeah. And it wasn't sustainable. I was staying up till 3, 4 a.m. answering emails, and then getting 2 or 3 hours sleep, and being late for work and pissing off my colleagues. So that wasn't sustainable, really. The GP training was a little bit easier because that was more structured, and you had a bit more time off and so on. And the scheme that I trained with actually had a very open-minded view of doctors having other interests, and actually kind of allowed me to spread my training over a longer period of time, which is something that I'm kind of grateful for, because they didn't have to do that, but they did.
Well, let's go to the book that brought you joy, or makes you laugh, or what book have you chosen for us today?
Yeah, so these so this is the Aisling series by Sarah Breen and Emer McLysaght, and I keep getting the titles wrong.
Oh my God, what a complete Aisling.
That's the first one, and the second one, which I read as well, is the importance of being Aisling, which is a bit more serious than the first one.
Yes,
but they're great books, and it's all about a girl from the country, Aisling or Ash, who comes to live in Dublin. And I think it's very important to say, you're not laughing at her. It's not ridicule at all.
Yeah, it's not mean.
It's the kind of person we all know, particularly if you grow up in Ireland, or anywhere really, I suppose, a country girl or a country boy who's come to the city. And of course, we can all be that person in different ways at different times, where you're just a bit clueless, or you don't have situational awareness about where you are.
Yes.
I just thought they were a lot of fun. It's an easy read, and and very funny, and the kind of book you can read on a plane, read on a train, read by the pool. I like real books, by the way. I never got into the Kindle or the ebooks. I do like audiobook, but they were just very funny.
So they're just great. And you needed escape, because by the time you got into politics seriously, you were straight into cabinet pretty quickly, and then you were a Taoiseach, as we say.
And it's nice to read things that
I can imagine,
that are just escapism.
When you become Taoiseach, is it a very strange experience at the moment it happens, or is it just, it's hardly another day at the office? But
no, well, it's surreal in many ways, because it's a big set piece moment with speeches and votes and all those things, and your family and your supporters are there, and they're delighted for you, and you're in the Dáil in the Parliament building. You get nominated there, then you head up to see the president, and the president gives you your seal of office. Then you go back and appoint your cabinet. But actually, a lot of the time, the only thing I was thinking about was all of the people I was going to disappoint, because there's huge expectation that day from nearly every TD, whether they admit it or not, wants to be a minister, wants to serve in cabinet, and there's a huge number of people whose hearts you break that day because you don't get to appoint them, and they have to sit through the whole thing and vote for you and vote for the new cabinet, which they're not in. So in some ways, while it should be a really joyous, triumphant occasion, like election day when you get elected, and it's all celebratory, in some ways it can actually be kind of tough. And you certainly feel the burden of responsibility.
I was going to say, did you feel kind of flat then at the end of the day after all the appointments, or rather than elated?
I think by the end of the day, just tired, and you kind of have to turn up at the party that night, and talk to your supporters and guests, and happy to do that, of course, but was really glad just to get home that night.
I bet. Did you lose any friends as a result of some of the appointments you made or didn't make?
I don't really think so. Now I can't remember who said it, but somebody famous said that if you want to friends in politics, get a dog.
Yeah.
So I do have friends in politics,
and they're all on the lead in a park.
I do have friends in politics, but you don't really have that many. It is a bit like a workplace.
Yes.
And workplace friends are not necessarily the same as your friends, the ones who've been in your house, the ones who go on holidays.
The real ones.
Yeah.
Looking back now, is there any part of your tenure as Taoiseach that you wish you could change or do better or improve? Or, I mean, I get the sense you're probably one of those people who go, what's the point in this question? So, because it happened. But then maybe I'm stating a part of you that I don't know. So how do you answer that question?
Look, there's loads of things, and they're in the book. There's lots of little mistakes and silly gaffes and interpersonal issues that I could have dealt with better.
Well, say one or two of them for people who haven't read the book yet, or the ones that strike you as of interest.
Yeah. So going back to my early days when I ran for election, ran for the Dáil the first time, went for the nomination to run for my party in the Dublin West constituency. There was, I suppose, somebody ahead of me on the list, really. And Sheila Terrier's her name. She was the senator at the time. And I went for the nomination and I got it, and the local party supported me over her. But she had also been very good to me, had mentored me, had taught me a lot about politics. And I decided to compete against her for the nomination. I probably should have sat down and had the conversation and been more honest about it and told her, and that would just be one of the things. Yeah. Another thing, just along the way, there's all those little resignations. Not little resignations, those events are always quite traumatic. One of my close friends, and we remained close friends, we still are, Lucinda Creighton, we were elected, we were in Trinity together, we were elected to the Dáil on the same day. She left the party, set up her own party. A lot of those things I just could have handled better as a person.
Yeah.
And then there's the policy stuff as well. Like one thing I reflect on in the book is the extent to which we suffered a bit from pessimism bias.
Yes, yeah.
Ireland had 3 economic shocks during my period in office: the global financial crisis, which led to the IMF intervention in Ireland, Brexit, and the pandemic. And on each occasion, the economy bounced back a lot quicker than we anticipated.
Yeah.
And had I known that,
Yeah.
we would have ramped up investment in things like housing and transport sooner. I'm not saying it would have solved those problems, because it wouldn't have. That's the whole other thing. But it might have made them a bit better than they are now.
You could have only limited the pessimism, as you say in the book, that you were kind of, you were taken aback by the bounce back, and therefore...
but it's also another good reason to listen to experts but not obey them. Because,
this is...
the Central Bank, the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, they're a stuck clock. Their advice is always the same. Rein in spending, don't cut taxes. And I suppose a stuck clock has to be right eventually.
But the same thing then arose with with NEFIT, who were looking after the health of the country. I think you kind of looked slightly wistfully back at that, thinking we probably should have said to them, lads, leave this to us, or let's talk more or something. So oftentimes I think looking back, you kind of went, damn, if only I had kind of listened to me rather than them in some ways.
Yeah, maybe on a few occasions. I've gone my instincts a little bit more. I'm not in the Michael Gove space. I'm not saying that we're sick of experts, but experts have a very narrow view of things. They don't see the wider holistic picture. That, like, one thing in Ireland so far, at least we've avoided populism, which is sweeping across democracies. And we do have populism, but the centre of politics has held in Ireland. And part of the reason for that, I think, is the very generous budgets that we had in the last couple of years to help people with the cost of living, which has maintained living standards. But try and explain that to a central banker or an economist. Yeah. That if you want to avoid radical right-wing, left-wing governments really destroying the economy, you actually have to make sure that living standards are protected, and that might mean spending a bit more than you think is economically prudent. I just often wonder, when you see the riots in Dublin that time in November a couple of years ago, and then you see I would argue is the takeover of the Irish flag, which I'm not happy about as a citizen, to be honest with you. I felt as a kid and a young man. The attempt to take over, they haven't succeeded as far as I'm concerned. No, I appreciate that sentiment entirely, but the attempt, that's much better language. I definitely give you that. But when I was a kid, it was always the IRA owned the flag. Now it looks like somebody else is muscling in to own my flag, our flag. And it bothers me a little bit, I have to say, as a citizen. But some would say also, particularly in more recent times, that the cost of living problem and crisis, whatever you want to call it, has led to an anger that has arguably fed into this anti-immigrant conversation. That's it's not even a conversation. People have civil discourse is sort of collapsing a little bit as well. It's a bit ugly, isn't it? It is, and I think that's true. Like, there's many different threads to anti-migration sentiment, and some of it is just pure racism. A lot of it isn't. But if you look back over history, even if you look at the 1930s and the rise of fascism in Germany, underlying that was the Great Depression and a terrible economic crisis, people struggling financially, and then, because they were desperate, turning to communism, turning to fascism, someone to blame, either someone to blame or the system's not working for me, so let's just blow it up and it couldn't be worse. The Indian community came in for some bad news as well in Ireland. I was quite shocked by that. And again, ugly, they have to cancel their India Day in Farmley, and that's disturbing too. You're making a valid point that says the populism and extremism, we haven't gone there, brackets, heavy pregnant pause, yet. And I worry that the yet is getting further away or closing in, depending where that goes. Because even we're in London today, but I was at home at the weekend, and those flags are flapping in parts of Dublin and stuff like that, in a way that the George's Cross is flapping in parts of England and outside hotels and so on. I just worry, and I don't want to be suffering from pessimism overload like you talked about earlier on, but I am worried as a citizen about the potential direction. And I'm just asking, you're now just a fellow citizen. I'm not asking you as a politician, but I am curious to know what you think of it. Yeah, well, look, Ireland is a normal country. I'm not naive to the possibility that we could see the rise of I don't like the term far right, because it actually doesn't describe what they are. What they are white Christian fundamentalist, or they're white supremacist fundamentalist Christians and nationalists. That's they're really the ideas behind this, and that you could see that rise in Ireland. I remember in Sweden, and there was a time when Sweden was seen as this almost perfect country that everyone should try to emulate, with a great society and a modern economy. And one day they woke up and found the Sweden Democrats, which are a very nationalist party, and a right-wing nationalist party, were the second party and a real political force in Sweden. So it could happen in Ireland too, and that is a risk, and one that we have to be wise to. And it is also part of the reason why politicians do have to respond to people's concerns. The number of migrants who've come to Ireland in the past number of years, in part driven by Ukraine, has been very large. And a population growing at 1.5% a year probably is too much. So people do need the reassurance that the government is in control, that we have borders that work. But we also need to keep on reminding people, and we need to do it every day, about the value that migrants bring to our economy and society. Like in Ireland, roughly 20% of the workforce is now made up of people not born in Ireland, and that's in the health service, it's taxi drivers, it's the restaurants.
Well, Leo, I went
everything.
I went to a nursing home in Galway yesterday.
Home care,
healthcare, and I met these two people.
Childcare.
And the staff came out to say hello, and we did a photograph. I said, "Where's everyone from originally?" I'm sure it was a bit more sensitive than that, not one of them was born in Ireland. It was Moldova, and it was India, and it was Philippines. And I wanted to say to everyone with a racist bone in their body, who's going to look after your mammy?
Well, there's a solution. I kind of put it to them sometimes, is that we could actually operate Ireland without migration if we all do a 6-day week. So anybody who thinks migration is a bad thing and doesn't want a steady stream of migrants, they should all sign up for a 6-day week. We could assign people. So, if you work in the health service, you just work longer hours. Yeah. If you work maybe, I don't know, in education, you could volunteer to drive a taxi once a week, or I don't know, work in a restaurant, fill the gap of the migrants that you don't like.
I can see you running for office again. I don't know if you get elected. Maybe you would, actually. That's the weird thing.
We could do a referendum. We give you the option of a 6-day week, and we'll put a stop to migration.
The 6-day party, Leo Varadkar future, because you're too young to be, in talking about retirement anyway. The book that changed your life or did something for you. Do you want to talk about that? What have you gone for?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a boring one, but one that actually is very genuine to me, and that is a book, and that book is Ballymore and the Constitution of Ireland, which has totally framed my life in so many different ways. So it goes back to 1937, and in that is defined so many of the institutions that I've been part of: the Dáil, our Parliament, the Irish government, the Council of State, of which I am a life member.
You get a life membership, which is quite
by
handy,
virtue of being a former Taoiseach. Mm-hmm. So my residual public office is that, and it's all there.
And that sits with the sitting president of Ireland has a Council of State. They advise in terms of legislative or scenarios that form the mood of the nation on occasion. You're there with appointees for the president, but also obviously people who are always going to be there, like former Taoiseach.
Yeah, so this document has really formed my life from the country that I live in, the fact it's a republic, and also all these institutions that I've served in and will continue to for the remainder of my life. There's no provision to resign from the Council of State.
Right, okay.
Interestingly, so
you're doing a 6-day week.
Well, I think it's only met twice in 7 years, so it's not too onerous.
That's not too bad.
And there's no stipend or daily fee or anything like that.
Okay, just to get people know, you don't receipt
like
your taxi to the Oris.
No. But it does involve a few small things. So I'll be present for the inauguration of the new president. A few things like that. But it's also been a document that's framed my life in other ways because of the fact that in lots of different ways I've been involved in campaigns to change it. Mm-hmm. So in order to be fully part of the European Union, to join the single currency, we had to amend our constitution and had a referendum on that. And among the campaigns I would have been involved in as a student and as a young adult were the Lisbon and Nice Treaty referendums. Lisbon providing the European defence, European security and defence policy, which I then led the country into formally in 2017. Yeah. And then, of course, other provisions. Our constitution defined marriages between a man and a woman. So we had the big referendum in 2015 to change that. And that obviously changed things for me too, even though I'm not married, but I can if I want to. And then
you want to make some little announcements. So it's all the rage,
Not today. And then of course, when I was a Taoiseach, led the country through 5 referendums, in fact.
Yeah.
3 to change, 3 which we won to change the constitution, 2 which we lost. But the main one there was to lift the ban on abortion.
Yeah.
So
it's a good choice of book, actually. Yeah, because it's a living. They call it a living document, don't they? That it changes with the political winds in some ways.
And there's another quirk that I didn't know about until I became Taoiseach, is that there is actually an official document. There's one of them called the Constitution, and it gets enrolled, and every couple of years, I think it's the Attorney General, the Taoiseach, and the Chief Justice initial every page in it.
Get away.
So the most recent enrolled official copy of the Constitution comes from 2019.
LV.
Yeah, has LV written on every page.
LV on every page. My goodness. We're in London today. You've got one sister over here.
Yes. Yeah.
Book launch last week that went well. You're going to catch a few shows. You catch shows. You like shows?
I do. Yeah.
What are your knockout ones you've seen?
So saw the new production of Evita in the Palladium, which was amazing.
She goes out on the balcony.
Yes, So for people who like their musicals, they'll know that one of the big lines in "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." It's the best show. Well, it's not. Well, anyway, one of the lines from Evita is the best show in town was the crowd outside the Casa Rosada crying Eva Perón. Yeah, and what she does is she enacts that from the balcony of the Palladium. 2 people on the street below,
and there are people who
and then goes back into the theatre.
Really good. So you love that. What else? You mentioned 6 before we came on.
Yes,
this is about the wives of Henry VIII.
That is a lot of fun. So it's a little bit like Wicked. You know, the Wicked is the Wizard of Oz from the point of view of the witches. This is the story of Henry VIII, who does not appear in it at all. From the story of the 6 wives.
Correct it for me. I was going to go and say
and they're a girl band. Yeah. And they each have a different style and a different song.
Sounds great.
They sing some songs together. It's great. It's also a quick one for people who maybe find people who have a short attention span and don't want to spend 3 hours in the theatre. This is only like an hour and a half. And
it's a good sell for me now. Yeah,
great music. And Hamilton as well. Of course, saw that in London a couple of years ago. And but one where the dialogue is really important, so probably worth actually listening to that before you go.
Yes, you can watch it on Disney Plus, or you can go and see it in a really good theatre.
I can always imagine what a cabinet meeting through rap would be like.
Did you ever do a cabinet meeting through rap?
No.
Come on, I mean, Micheál Martin, Oscar Elgin, like really go.
Probably with the beauty of artificial intelligence, you could. Get that done now, but
as soon as it's out of your mouth, this is already being done by some guy in a computer in a room somewhere in Roscommon, and it's going to be brilliant. Just a few quick questions about the leaders you met. You write so frankly about Boris Johnson. You mentioned Barack Obama. Who was good crack? Who did you kind of go, oh great, I'm going to see them tomorrow. They're good fun.
Well, Trump is good crack. Like he genuinely is.
Explain that to me. Like
we don't share the same politics by any means.
Yeah.
But he's a big personality, very personable. You do feel a bit like you're going on his show when you meet him. I tell a story in the book that when I met him on his visit to Ireland, I'd met him previously in the US, but on his visit to Ireland, he'd just come off the plane and had a spat on Twitter with Bette Midler. And he was very, very keen to talk about this, and she had to apologise because she misquoted him or something, and he felt he had a victory over her, and certainly was not magnanimous in victory. Only had basically wanted to talk trash about her, and he to your face will talk trash about a lot of people.
Yeah,
but that is kind of fun, and it's very different to the maybe more formal stick to your brief. Type politician that I would usually meet.
Yeah.
But I think in some ways it's often why populists do well. Nigel Farage was also good company on the occasion that I met him.
Yeah.
Because likability is important, and even though Trump doesn't drink, he's a teetotaler. These are the kind of people who would be more fun to have dinner with.
I know
more
what you
fun
mean.
to have a drink with than maybe more serious politicians. And I think for those of us who are in the centre, who are more liberal, that's something we need to have a think about. Authenticity is very important, and so is likability.
You'd have some ding dong about immigrants at that dinner party, anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, as you know, President Trump marries immigrants, but thinks there's
Did
too
you
many
say
of
that
them.
to him?
I did not. No.
Because it's a good point. And I think a lot of populists have a history of being with people from different countries and places, which is quite interesting too. You strike me as we come to an end as very happy and content. I've met you a few times. You would have been a minister, you would have been Taoiseach. I always felt that you had to be a bit more on because of the nature of the job. People often comment, and you write about this, about you being maybe a little awkward, a little socially introverted, if you like, and you talk about Nicola Sturgeon yourself in a corner going, thank God, so you're here because I don't really want to meet anyone else type of thing. I'm exaggerating and all that. But I feel with the burden of office off your shoulders, your own more realistic personality has come out and the more real you is in front of us. Is that fair comment, or is that a bit nonsensical? I don't know. What?
No, it is fair comment. First of all, I'm not under the kind of time pressure or scheduled as I would have been before. So I have two things to do today, and one of them is or two appointments a day. There's always things to do, but
I understand.
I have two appointments a day, and one of them was with you, one of them was with somebody later on. So
sure.
I would have had 14, and very often you're thinking about the next one or the last one during the one you're at. So it allows you to be a bit more present because I'm just not as heavily scheduled and rushed around. Maybe that's partially my fault. I maybe should have said no more and insisted on a lighter schedule, but that's easier said than done. And the other thing is I don't have an awful lot to worry about anymore.
Yeah.
Like what do I worry about? Like my own problems, none of which are of national or international importance. So life is definitely easier, even though I'm totally inconsequential now, or largely.
What age are you now? Do you mind me asking?
46.
46. I'm tempted to say what you want to be when you grow up, but what do you want to do next of consequence? Because at the moment you seem to be doing bits and pieces of things that you're really enjoying with you're in Harvard as a senior fellow, and you're doing conferences, you're doing a bit of advising and so on. Have you something you'd love to do? Maybe go back to Europe in a bigger role or something like that, because you're so young politically and for our age and our time. There's plenty more. Do you have? You don't have to tell us what they are necessarily, but do you think that at the back of your mind there's more to come ambition wise?
I don't know yet. I certainly don't have any desire to ever run for election again. But I am still very interested in politics. I care about my country, my community, the planet. I am involved in a few campaigns. I'm involved in an NGO that advocates for better access to healthcare for women. I'm interested in helping out LGBT people around the world. So I was in Hungary for Pride Week and into Bulgaria with the groups there. So, and then I'm on the board of what's called Global Citizen, or the European board. And they focused on raising money for vaccines, given that some countries have pulled their funding from healthcare, renewable energy, saving the rainforest. So, I'm still going to be involved in different causes. But I, for now anyway, at least for a couple of years, I can't describe this as my gap year, and I think it'll be more than 1 year. I want to be able to do a mix of things and a portfolio of things before I'm able to consider another big full-time role that is all-consuming and means work at weekends and evenings. I'm not saying that won't happen. But not for a couple of years anyway.
You've got Shaftesbury Avenue sitting outside here, and there's a lot of stuff to go and see there if you want to do it. And you have time to go and see it now.
I do, and it wasn't a short innings. 23 years in elected politics.
Yeah.
I often wonder if the sabbatical option was available, would I have taken it? But that's not the way politics works. It's all in or you're out.
Well, congratulations on your book. It's frank, it's honest, it's entertaining. And it's been really great to have you on the show today. Thank you, Leo Varadkar.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
This episode is brought to you by Ballymore, a company that creates places with soul, putting arts and culture at the heart of its work, alongside creating award-winning workspaces, homes and neighbourhoods across the UK, Ireland and wider Europe. To find out more about the places Ballymore is shaping, where people can live, work and play, visit ballymoregroup.com.